bow hunters, welcome back to Becoming a Bow Hunter. I am Matthias Turner. Today I'm joined by Grant Randy Rand. Welcome, mate.
Hey, how are you, bud?
Yeah, real good, dude. So we had a little talk on the phone the other day, a little prep talk before we got into this conversation, which I think is quite common, actually, to be honest. Now that I've come into the bow hunting world, like, it's interesting. I don't really get that to happen with any of the other podcasts I do with my business, but in the bow hunting realm, everyone wants to kind of find out like what you want to hear from them and stuff before you even get into it. It's quite funny. But something that we talked about on the phone was, I said to you, like, if I knew how much it actually cost, I don't know if I ever would have got into it. And I said that, and now I thought about it. I'm like, no, that's a lie. Like, I do really enjoy it, and it is so much fun, and the adventure is so much more worthwhile. But it really kind of led us down a little talk, or a little tip that you gave me without probably even knowing it. But when you go and shoot animals, you even look at the position of where they are and what's behind them, because you know that depending on what's behind them will like potentially ruin the broadhead or ruin the arrow. And it's like, if you want the chance of using or reutilizing that, you don't want to shoot it up against a rock wall, obviously. So waiting an extra 4 or 5 steps until the critter's kind of on some sand or whatever it might be, like, that's going to be obviously a better shot to take. And it got my cogs ticking straight away. So I think that was a really cool tip that I wanted to make sure that we got into the conversation. So I've just given it from your words into my mouth onto the podcast. So there you go.
Well, yeah, like, thinking about that, I probably do it more with like doing the product design and testing prototypes.
Yep.
Like a prototype, if anyone's done any of this stuff here, they know that like doing a 1, 2, or even a 10 run of like a new design or something like that costs a small arm and a fortune. So you sort of, every time you do it, you might be shooting a $60 or $70 broadhead at something. So you want to get it back to see how it went and what it did. And, you know, from time to time, like if I'm out and I'm hunting and it's the trophy of a lifetime or something real big, or it's a massive boar or something, that stuff doesn't really click into my brain to do. But if I'm out, like, just, you know, oh, there's some goats up there, sweet, we need one for the pot, righto, sneak around off the, you know, move across here. I'm going to be shooting sort of uphill. There's an embankment or something behind it. You know, my arrow's going to skip up there and it'll be easy to see, or wait till they move down there and they're feeding just off the edge of the dam and then shoot. It'll skip up and hit the offside, or, you know, end up in the mud. You don't damage anything.
Yeah.
You pick it up and you see what it's done, and yeah, you can have a better look at it. So
yeah, no, I thought it was good insight.
Yeah, I have that sometimes.
I mean, I haven't done you any justice yet, but to give you a bit more of an introduction, you are one of the owners at Kyuga Broadheads. So there's 3 of you guys. Had you and Summers on. Haven't talked to Matty yet, but that may happen down track. You've had 10 plus years of bow hunting, and as you tell me, you've got terrible technique, but you still get the job done. So
yeah, I'm a terrible archer, but I fluke it when I hunt. So I'm just, lucky I can half stalk and get in close to critters. Otherwise, these guys shooting at 60 and 70 and stuff like that, it bewilders the crap out of me. I can't even see the target that far away. So
yeah, definitely. It's interesting. I mean, if you've ever just shot at a small, I don't know, what are the Reinhardt targets? What would they be, like 40 centimeters, 45 centimeters, maybe? Not even.
Yeah, maybe not even that. Maybe 35 or something like that. Yeah.
Like, and you're shooting that at, say, 30, 40, or even probably more so 40, 50, and you're not hitting on one face. Like, that's a fair sign that you shouldn't be taking those shots.
Yeah, that's it. So, like, years ago, I don't know if you've ever watched it, Brad Smith says a tennis ball size area in one of his DVDs. If you can put your arrows every time comfortably within a tennis ball size, that's your effective range with the bow, and you shouldn't be taking shots further than that, because you're likely to wound something or injure it. And that isn't good for you. It isn't good for the sport. It isn't good, you know, for the farmer or the cocky to see a critter running around with an arrow hanging out of it, because your chances of getting an invite back just went from good to, no, we don't want that bastard out here again. So
yeah, definitely that cowboy yeehawing around. And I mean, it just actually triggered me a little bit, because there's a lot of it going around at the moment. People shooting things like kangaroos, and then they're finding it later with the arrow half hanging out of it, or shooting dogs or shooting cows. And that stuff's obviously really, really bad for the sport. And like you can't help but get angry when you see stuff like that, because whether you want to call it a sport or a passion, realistically, it makes us all look bad. Like, oh, archers, they're those guys that go out and shoot those animals they shouldn't be shooting. And it really does kind of give the sport a bad name. I mean, you've got a little bit more skin in the game because you've got a company in the business, in the realm of it all as well. So it's like, if it becomes more limited, it just makes it harder on you guys as well.
Oh, for sure. Like, only just today I got sent something. One of my mates lives in Lithgow, and it was like on one of their community Facebook pages. Dog? Yeah, a dog with an arrow through its paw. Like,
yeah, made me so angry when I saw that.
If you're out doing that, like, just have a look at yourself in the mirror and just give yourself an uppercut.
Yeah, pretty much. Like,
you don't really belong in this sport.
No,
You're not doing favors for us. You're not doing favors for yourself. It's, there's nothing to gain from doing that crap.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that I've really appreciated about getting into bow hunting, and I've only been in it for a short while, but really I've met some really cool people. Like the people who get out and get after it and continue to do so year after year and not give up. You can definitely tell that it makes it makes or it breaks a person, and the people who it makes, there's definitely is a top quality person, I think.
Well, yeah, I think this would be my 10th year of sort of doing the bow hunting. Before this, I shot stuff with a rifle. I used to call it hunting, but now I've done the bow hunting side of it. I can't call it that anymore. I just can't bring myself to do it. I was just a bushwalker with a bang stick, and yeah. Now I've done this, but almost 90% of the people I've met through this they all have the same sort of genuine interest in, the animal welfare and stuff. We're not these big bad killers that everyone makes us out to be. There's a small portion that are cowboys and they give us the wrong name, but most of that's easily identified. Young fellas trying to make a name for themselves, willy-nilly shooting things, or the kids that have just gone down to the local Rebel or the fish and tackle shop or something like that sells these cheap, nasty bows. Well, they're not set up. There's no, like, yourself now setting a bow up and stuff. When you first started, you would have just gone, oh yeah, I can just, go down, grab one, one size fits all. I'll throw some arrows on, get it to hit a spot, and then we're happy days. Whereas the guys that are doing it, and are successful day in, day out, and are hunting all the time, we're shooting that bow day in, day out. We're tuning it. We spend hours and days getting it right.
Yeah,
I'm lucky. I've got the super tuner, Mr. Ian Summers. I just go, oof, I can't get this thing to work. It's doing my head in. I'm going to bring it over when you're free. And he goes, oh, yeah, bring it around here, because I got a bad habit of getting a bit angry and throwing bows and things as such. So, yeah, short temper.
Yeah, it goes quickly. No, that's awesome. I mean, realistically, one of the best bits of advice I got before I ever got into bow hunting, and I didn't know it at the time, but was to not go and just buy any cheap bow. Like, really, the guy told me don't buy anything that's under $1,000. And to me, that was like, oh, that seems a bit extreme. Like for someone who's never even been into it and then trying to get into it, like to go and just drop over $1,000. But like, realistically, if I could give anyone the bit of advice, it's that, like, go to the archery ranges until you get one, so you can still use a bow. But then when you can finally buy your own, like, spend good money on it.
That's it. And like, reach out to people and stuff like that through Facebook. You'll find, like, in them groups and stuff, people are always upgrading their bows and
selling secondies.
Oh, it's like anyone, like, I've had a couple of friends and stuff that wanted to get into bow hunting, and they go, oh, what do I need to spend? I said, put $1,500 aside, because you're going to need to buy a bow, a release aid, some arrows, and that's just to get the bow and stuff. And then you need the stuff for hunting. So you need binoculars, a rangefinder, some camo, and it's not something that you can just sort of grab. If you go and get the cheap $50 Aldi version,
you buy again.
You're going to buy again. So I'm a fan of buy once, buy right.
Yeah.
And, you're not paying it 3 times over. Same with everything, your camo, your optics, whatever you can get the best of at the time, do it. Some guys are in a position where they can drop thousands of dollars on gear, and other guys have to wait, 12 months just to be able to spend that sort of money. So you shop around, you can find some real good secondhand stuff, like especially with the bows. you can pick up. You're way better off, buying someone's 3 or 4 year old quality bow rather than going out and dropping a whole heap of coin on, a beginning bow. I don't want to name drop or anything like that because, there's a few specific brands and the eBay specials just, it'll put a bad taste. It puts a bad taste in your mouth. You can't tune them. You can't shoot them. They're just,
bust strings, do whatever else. It's like, terrible.
They're not worth the nuts and bolts that hold them together, basically.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, realistically, when there's people like Boof, Ian Summers, that is happy to take a bow from wherever you get it from. So if you get a secondhand bow, you can send it to him and he'll tune it up for you and get it ready. Might cost you an extra couple $100, but you've got new strings on the bow, you've got everything kind of set and ready, and all of a sudden you've got a secondhand bow that's close to brand new. So realistically, there's I mean, Ian's one. There's a guy up here, Jake Gasprowski. I know he does that. There's some guys down in Melbourne. Actually, if anyone's listening to this and they want to know more about that, go back and listen to the episode that I did with Ian Summers. It's actually episode number 1, where we talked about buying your first bow and buying the right bow for yourself. That's a really good podcast to kind of delve into that a little bit more.
Well, he's probably one of the better people to speak to in all of Australia, if not probably in the world, really, because like he's up to sort of 30 years or just shy of that doing archery alone and stuff like that. So, and then you got, as you said, Jake up there, who's always happy to help. And then down south, there's Brad Murphy, the bowhunting coach.
Yeah.
So, and he's even doing like courses and stuff where he comes up to New South Wales and you do it at Ian's place or something like that. And up north to near you guys, and he links up with Jake and they do it there and whatnot. So there's some really cool things. And like another part of so I'm in the Broadheads, and then Matt and Ian do the adventure side of it.
Yeah.
They're doing a bow hunting, like an educational course. So it's
that's awesome.
A 6-day hands-on course from sharpening broadheads, tuning a bow, making sure your bow is right for you before you go out, and then you go hunting, you go stalking, you break animals down, you see what the anatomy is, what the actual shot did. Because a lot of people, like when I first started, I learnt the hard way. I sort of had no one around me doing it. All my family and stuff are a rifle, so it's sort of put the crosshair on the chest and pull the trigger, and if it don't fall over, reload another one and go back in the same spot and go again. And 9 times out of 10 with that stuff there, you shoot them and they fall over, and it's all done and dusted. So you're not cutting them up, you're not breaking them down, you're not looking at anatomy, you're not even thinking about the angles. And like a broadside shot, you can put the arrow perfectly on a broadside shot, but as soon as it turns away or you get in the mountain country where the angles start to change, it really pays dividends to understand, 1, the bone structure of that critter so you know what you're up against, and 2, the anatomy so you know where things sit, like different animals, different times of the day. Like your goats, you shoot a goat first thing in the morning before they've had a big drink of water, their vital area is sort of bigger as it's stretched out because their stomach's not as full. Whereas they go in and they drink like
heaps.
Sometimes you swear they're drinking as much to fill a tanker up, because they walk out and they're bloody as round as they are long, and they just sort of waddle out. Their 4 legs sort of just pivot off, and you watch them walk out and you go, how the hell do you consume so much water and not want to throw it back up, or how do you start? And they come out, but that could push all of their vitals forward, maybe 20 centimeters. So that shot that,
that's 2 tennis balls almost, right? Like 2 or 3.
Yeah. That's 2.5 tennis balls. So where you thought that shot was perfect, now that he's had a belly full of water, it's here nor there, because all his vitals have pushed forward and up in the chest cavity. So that shot is, basically what was a textbook shot is now a gut shot essentially, and you got a hell of a tracking job ahead of you.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, for you, jumping across from being a rifle hunter to being a bow hunter, how'd that kind of come about?
So, the father-in-law said, I got 600 acres you can hunt on that's 20 minutes from home. It's got deer on it, but you can't shoot them with a gun. And I went, righto, I'll get a bow. This can't be too hard. I'll get this worked out. And that's where it started. And yeah, a mate I went to school with through the wonderful powers of social media and Facebook. I linked up with him and sort of he kicked off probably 2 years before me, but hadn't done too much. So we sort of started talking, hanging out, did a few little hunts together, went out and yeah, sort of mucked around there, played with the targets. Still had no idea about tuning a bow. We were just moving the sight to our pins were hitting where we wanted it to be, and what we thought was good grouping then to what I think now. I'd slap myself if I thought that was acceptable to hunt with.
Yeah.
But not having anyone to guide me or show me, or sort of, it was a tough learning curve. We had the forum back in the day, the Bowhunters Group of Australia forum or something like that. So it might still be there, but I think it's pretty much dead in the water. Yeah. Like, sadly, no one contributes to it. The same as the hunting magazines like Bow Hunt Down Under and stuff. It's done and dusted now because as sad as it is to see it go, the social media is the way of the future, and that's just
the way it kind of is going. I actually just bought you can't see it, the Arrowhead magazine yesterday.
Yeah, I've got to get on and subscribe to that because
I keep it alive.
And I like the magazines. It's good because I grew up
definitely.
Like the old boy used to get it was Guns and Game or one of those, and it might have been a quarterly magazine or something, and it'd come through and you'd always grab it and sneak and go and have a look and look at all these cool things that people shoot and sort of go, oh yeah, how cool would it be to be doing that one day? And now I'm doing that, but with a bow and arrow instead of the rifle. So it's sort of, and then I've done a few things in the mag, so it's like, thinking back as a kid, how cool is it to see that? Because when I first started, the social media wasn't a big thing. Like it was just kicking off. There wasn't all these groups and places you could sell gear and stuff. It was pretty much the magazines were still that's where you got to see all these things that people were up to and the adventures they were having. And like I can remember looking at magazines and seeing these people that did all these amazing hunts and things like that and going, wow, how cool would it be? And just over the course of the years, I've actually met them people and talked to them. And like I said, 90% of the people in this sport are all good, genuine, humble people. They're happy to help where they can. Obviously, they're not going to give you the GPS drops and property owners' names and stuff like that for all them people that are just getting into it. Don't ask someone in the first 2 seconds of talking to them, oh, where's your hunting block? Oh, can you take me for a hunt? Because you're straight on the shit list. You're at the bottom of the thing. Any information that you were going to get is now null and void. You've shot yourself in the foot. So it's one of those things. But it's a crazy sport to be in. I don't even think it's a sport. It's a pastime. It's part of, for myself anyway, it's a part of my life. Like
it's very lifestyle driven, right?
Oh yeah, I only sort of go to the gym and ride the bike around the block and walk the dogs and stuff like that to keep a bit of fitness for hunting.
Yeah.
Whereas if I wasn't doing this, don't know. Not at the time because of the Rona, but who knows? It could be up the pub slapping on the pokies every day and be a morbidly obese, on the cigarettes and smashing half a carton every night sort of thing. So
yeah, definitely. And I mean, unfortunately, it's still that follows everyone around no matter where they go. Really, like that's just still part of livelihood. But it is interesting. You definitely see people keeping their fitness up because of hunting, which I think is great. And it's definitely transitioned my outlook on what I was training for as well. Like I went to the CrossFit Games a few years ago with a team and don't train to that ability anymore, like nowhere near that much, because it's like that's no longer the goal. The goal's now be fit enough to tackle any hill or any mountain when it comes to that time. And that's pretty much what it comes to now. It's like, okay, be fit enough to do everything that life throws at you, which the hardest things I think I'm going to do is go out hunting.
Well, some of those bigger hunts and stuff like that, I don't know how you train for it, but some of them big hills always end up gassing out before
you get there,
before you hit the top. I don't know what it is. I come back and a couple of weeks back, just before this lockdown, I went chasing red deer with a mate, and he's about nearly 10 years younger than me. So he's a young spring chicken, and yeah, he's up and down the hills, and he kept looking back, and I'm like, I'm coming, I promise, I'm coming. I'm just, we'll
Taking
see where
time.
you are in another 10 years, and we'll see if it's comparable. So,
Take the notes. Yeah.
yeah, that's it. So,
Oh, that's funny. And so let's talk about how you got into Kyuga then, because you weren't a founder of the company, but you came in at a later date, right?
yeah, so I jumped in, might be what are we at, 2020? Might have even been like 5 years ago now. It's been a while. Pretty much started with a Snapchat. So again, social media. Matt sent me a picture of just a sketch of something that he'd been toying with, the idea of a broadhead, and I pretty much looked at it and went, "Holy shit! Yeah, righto." I've been, trying to do something like that myself. With a fella that used to live over here, Grant Hughes, used to work at Abbey Archery in Castle Hill. Mm-hmm. He's moved back to the States now.
Yeah.
Me and him worked on a very similar head to our pilot cut for probably 2 or 3 years. Like, gone down, got it all drawn in the CAD, and had 3D models printed, and then actually had some like steel samples made up over in the States at someone he knew factory, like they could do machining and stuff like that and CNC stuff. So, and then his car got broken into, the prototypes got stolen along with his bow, and that's sort of where that's where our sort of adventure into this broadhead industry died in the arse. And then 6 months later, Matt had that Snapchat, and I pretty much rang him straight after. I go, "We need to have a proper talk."
Did you break into a car about 6 months ago, Matt?
Well, no, see, the car got broken into in the States, so
okay.
it was well out of his reach.
Yeah.
But so I was like, sort of ran through and went, "Look, I've been doing this, talking about this, thinking about this. I've got these drawings," and a couple of weeks of back and forth and talking and whatnot, and him going up the Cape for 9 months of the year, because he not only does the guiding and the bow hunting, he actually lives and like manages the fires on the station and stuff up there, because it's such a big area of land they have to burn off. There's a period where they can burn off and they don't get charged like a heap of carbon credits.
Yeah.
Because it's cooler, it burns colder, so it's not as much smoke and things as such.
Yeah, okay.
So they backburn. Basically, it's a tactical backburn. So when the summer storms come, you don't get lightning strike and start a fire and burn a million acres, because, a fire up there goes from being 5 acres to 5 million acres in
so quickly. And that's essentially overnight. Where we saw Australia burning at the start of the year, because we weren't allowed to do that for so long, right? Like the backburn that they'd previously been able to do.
That's it. So all those little fire breaks and things they used to clear and burn weren't being done. So he goes up there and spends, before any hunters and stuff get into camp, he might be dragging around the Dozer and a front end loader and a grader for 2 months, just fixing the tracks that were perfectly fine 6 months ago before the wet season.
Yeah.
But they get the wet season there, it floods, and then the hot, the humid weather, the grass and stuff, it's taller than, you can't see over it. So, clearing tracks, clearing paths, clearing the runway, the mail plane and stuff to land so they can get supplies in. Depending on how bad the wet season was, sometimes you get to one of the creeks and you're stuck at that creek for a couple of days until it goes down, or you've got to walk up or down, make the decision to, either jump or swim across the creek and walk to camp, get the tractor or the dozer or something that's a bit bigger, go back out and clear the track back and try and push some stuff in so you can form the road up and get in and start the process. So
fair enough.
It's a pretty crazy thing there. So he's up there 9 months of the year doing that, and pretty much, parents were looking after like the postage and the shipping and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I sort of went, well, I'm keen to jump on board. I want to do something with this broadhead. I've got the drawings and the mechanical sort of the know-how side of it, and he's got the mechanical know-how as well, being a fabricator, like a boilermaker and a fabricator by trade.
Yeah.
So we sort of went with that and approached the factory that was already doing the welded heads, and got some concepts done, and I think there might have been like 14 concepts
Wow.
done back and forth. And yeah, it's a very frustrating thing dealing with them because one, it's a language barrier, but two, dealing with people overseas, they have different ways of doing things. So what they think's a good idea and what you think's a good idea,
Different.
oh, they're never the same. They think they're doing great by saving you a couple of cents here and there, but they've actually, you know, cut something out that's there for a design point, or, you know, they've left something in, or they've changed the material without asking because it's, you know, cheaper to mass produce in that. So they do all of these things, and yeah, it takes a few goes to get back and forth, but I think we were nearly 12 to 18 months back and forth and trying to get just some solid prototypes that we were happy with. Like even back from getting heads and machining them up ourselves and heat treating it and changing it and doing all the different tweaks and things like that to get it close to what we wanted.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, taking photos, drawing it up, getting things 3D molded so you can actually see it in your hands as to what it looks like, because sometimes what paper and what it physically comes out as are two different things. So,
yeah.
But, yeah, that was a massive process in that. And, yeah, after sort of I jumped on to help Matt with the current line of Kyuga, or the line he had at the time of Kyuga. And then
which
after
is the old schools?
Yeah, which is the old school, the welded heads. And then, yeah, from there, we started the pilot cut range. I brought into the business, and yeah, we sort of became 50-50 business partners.
Yeah, wow.
On that. And then, yeah, Ian's story jumping into the business was much the same. He had his broadhead design and concept, the Zot, which he's been playing with for, I'll get this wrong and you'll want to shoot me, but it's got to be close. It's got to be close to 10 years. He's, had this thing sketched up and concepts, and he did the exact same stuff we did. Got things 3D printed, got things printed out of like a soft grade of metal and stuff like that to test it and to feel it, and, to actually see what it looks like, how it flies and things. And yeah, he sort of started talking about it, and we sort of give him some contacts and some details and how we went about doing our stuff. And after a little bit, he went, well, instead of being competition with each other, why not? I'll jump in and we'll collaborate this thing. So that was an awesome thing to be involved with there, because, yeah, it's a couple of real good mates and now you're business partners. Creates a few trying times.
Yeah, definitely, dude. Business is interesting. And that was really interesting because I talked to Ian. I interviewed him for the podcast. It would have been early last year. And he's like, oh, we've been playing around with prototypes for 2 years now. And then you guys only hit the market with that. When was that? The end of last year? Start of this year?
Start of this year, man.
Start of this year. Yeah, there you go.
So it's taken us, and that's with full engineering drawings, 3D models, samples, like the whole 9 yards. And even with all of that, they still can't get things right. It's still, I don't know, foreign to them. They don't understand the concept. They don't understand why we do or why we ask for these things to be done. And then you explain it back, but yeah, trying to get it right. And probably a part on us being very meticulous with things.
Yeah.
Like we got heads in that 2-year period. We might have had 10 or 12 samples come through that all would have been acceptable. We could have gone with that, released it, and put it on the market, and it would have worked. It would have sold. It would have killed critters. But it wasn't what we were 100% happy with.
Yeah.
And we didn't want to release it preempted. We didn't want to just settle for, close enough, good enough, like we did with this latest batch of heads. So the Zots and the Gen 2 pilot cuts, we did 12 or 13 different material things. So the exact same head, but in 13 different materials to try and get the perfect balance of steel. So for the guys that are familiar with it, our heads now are a Martin Citic stainless steel. So it means there's traces of carbon in there, which means it's a magnetic stainless steel.
Yeah.
But being stainless steel, you don't have the rust factor that you do with like a high carbon steel. So a lot of your like your high end American stuff, it's either a tool steel, which again is rust affects it because hasn't got the percentage of chromium in it to stop the rust accumulating on the surface.
Yeah.
Then your cheaper sort of your standards, 1045s and 4140s, they've got a dash of chromium in there. So if you're on a hunt in, say, New Zealand where it's wet, you sharpen your broadheads on the Monday, you go to use it on the Wednesday, that edge is actually oxidized and it's not sharp anymore.
Yeah.
So it's created its own sort of radius on that sharpened edge. So we've gone down this path of metal injection molding, which for us is good because we can tweak what actually goes into the batch of material. So we don't have to just pick a standard, there's your 10 different materials we offer. We can go, righto, we want a higher tensile strength. So the broadhead is good for impact and it doesn't shatter. But we also want something that's going to be tough enough that we can harden to around 46, 48 Rockwell, which is where we've found the best results for edge retention, but not being too hard for people to sharpen. And again, that comes down to like what people are using to sharpen the heads as well.
Yeah.
If you go and buy a cheap file from Bunnings, it's probably only going to be around 45 to 48 Rockwell hardness. You go and buy a good industrial file, it's probably around the 50 to 55 Rockwell.
Yeah.
So, and that's a major thing. Sharpness of the broadhead out of the packet is something that we've found probably one of the biggest things people ask or people want from the heads.
Yeah.
So again, that's created problems in the manufacturing process because we're trying to produce a head that's near shaving sharp out of the packet, but it goes through all these different processes, and over the course of that, the edges roll. Over time, they oxidize, all that sort of stuff there. So yeah, our steel choice now is probably the best we've had, like in comparison. We've had other guys comment and say, look, I've been shooting such and such broadheads for years. I had this problem. I come to yours, I don't have that. Or, I used to find sharpening this a nightmare. These new heads I seem to be able to sharpen a lot easier. And the stuff that we've just received, we got a couple of sort of pre-run samples before they do a major run.
Yeah.
They were out of the packet, popping your hair, like you just didn't even use a leather strop, just like wearing work pants, just back and forth on my work pants was enough to re-hone that edge. And then, not forcing it, like it's where you actually slide it and you can hear the hairs popping off the skin. So for us, that's a major win to have something out of the packet that is literally hair shaving sharp that guys don't have to touch up, and being that stainless material, it's going to stay like that even if it sits in a packet in your bag for 6 months, 12 months.
Yeah, definitely.
Because it doesn't oxidize. So
yeah, that's unreal. And so what, like, apart from obviously the pen to paper and getting the correct steels and stuff, right, the correct metals into it, what does the testing process look like? Like, is it, okay, we're just using it for hunting, or are you shooting into other objects to see what sort of toughness it has? Like, what's that look like?
Pretty much anything that you can think lying around the house that you could shoot them at, we've done. So I've sort of before this coronavirus stopped us being able to hang out and things like that, I'd have a couple of mates over for a barbecue on a Wednesday or a Thursday night, and it'd be righto, we'll just spend 10 minutes and set the camera up and film, go to the butchers and buy a cow leg bone or something like that. So the main femur bone off the cow, which is,
pretty thick.
It's probably the most solid bone you can come in contact with when you're out hunting. Like, it'd be the equivalent of a scrub bull or a buffalo leg bone.
Yeah.
Set that up in the little test box thing I got there. We'll clamp it in a vise and tie it up so the actual bone itself can't move backwards and absorb the energy. So it's rigid, and then we shoot broadheads at it. You know, I've shot Vesa bricks, steel plates, aluminium plates, house tiles. Like, again, all of that stuff is sort of a bit of a wanky factor because it's not the actual real life animal thing, like steel drums and stuff like that. You can shoot most things through a steel drum. It doesn't really show too much. If that drum's rusty and it's been sat out in the paddock for years, it's probably thinner than a bit of tissue that you use to blow your nose with. So it's not really a great show of strength. Whereas if you can get like a fresh cow bone that's, you know, the butcher's cut out that day, jam it in the vise and put an arrow through it and see what it does, see the effect. You know, there's a couple of videos we had there of shooting some of the bones, and like it's splitting these bones into not just two pieces, but actually shattering the whole bone.
Yeah, wow.
Broadhead's going through and still getting, you know, 5, 6, 7 inches of penetration into a Reinhardt behind it. So we're not losing that energy. And then filming it and stuff, you can slow it down in slow motion. So if there is any issues, you can see where it's binding up, or, you know, if approach angles are another massive thing that we've been playing with from our first lot of pilot cuts to the ones we have now. We've worked a lot.
What do you mean?
The tip. So the very first part of the broadhead, the tip. Like, I don't know, it'll only be good for the guys that can see it on here, but like, you can't even probably see that real well.
Yeah, put it against your forehead, that works well.
But that tip there is one of our original style tips, where it's a bit flat across the top, and whereas the newer styles, I don't know if I've got any sitting down in here. This is my little drawer of broadheads and all the Duvalakis, but there's other ones over there I can grab. But basically what we've done is we've changed it up and taken a little bit of meat off this backside here forward, and the same on that side there, to actually bring the point to a tip.
Yeah.
And what we did, Matt, while he was fabricating some stuff, made up a little press with a weight scale down the bottom. And then we got broadheads, put them in against this weight scale with fresh fighting pad off a pig that he'd shot.
Yeah.
So we put that in there, and we actually pull down on this, and it tells us how many pounds it takes for that broadhead to initially penetrate.
Cool. Yeah.
So you can see the peak of the performance of where it first enters, and then how it cuts as it transitions through the different edges.
Yeah.
On a traditional broadhead that's just, you know,
straight sharp.
One angle with a real square tip, it takes a hell of a lot of pressure to actually get it to punch through that first little bit. And once it gets into the cut, it's a little bit easier. But we did some testing down at the Wild Deer Expo on some stuff there. And yeah, we had our heads and a couple of competitors' heads, and just go, look, try this and do that. And there's guys blown away. Like, we had heads there that were taking 30 pounds to just initially penetrate. So if you're, you know, the average person shooting 28 inch, 60 to 70 pound, you know, 450, 500 grain arrow out of a fairly modern bow, you might only have 65, 70 foot-pounds of kinetic energy.
Yeah.
So if you lose 30 of that on your initial impact, that's going to have major effect on how that arrow travels for the rest of it. That's why you know, sometimes you see those people that get a lot of deflections with their shots. Yeah. And that could simply be just the tip design on the broadhead. Like, I went up, might have been 2015, I think. We went up the Northern Territory hunting floodplains with Rowan Walker and Jack Spinks. Yeah. And I was trying, like, I tried a heap of different broadheads. Everything that was pretty much available on the shelf, I've either shot or tried. There's a box out in my shed that's full of half-open packets of broadheads. Like, I've been meaning to take a photo of it and actually put it up. And I think as we progress, once this Gen 2 releases, we're probably going to go back into showing everyone all the heads we had prior and all the testing and stuff like that we did, and the progression of the broadhead, you know, lay it all out on the table so people can see we haven't just been sitting on our ass and, you know, just ISO, we haven't got them yet. Oh, we're waiting. We've been busy smashing away behind the scenes consistently. Anyone that wants to get into it and start it, that wants to do something that's not just an Alibaba ripoff or a copy, unless you got a lot of time and a lot of dollars up your sleeve, don't jump into it, because it is awesome and I love doing it. But some days you just go, oh, I wish I could just settle for something that someone else did off the shelf. But
yeah.
I want that perfection, and I think in the Gen 2 and the Zop Broadheads, we've nearly found that. They're engineered for success. That's what they are now.
So explain the Gen 2 for me a little bit more. The head, the way that it sits, like you've got you can attach the extra blades to it. So you've essentially got 4 blade. Is that correct?
Yeah. So basically, the Gen 2 is a 2-blade broadhead.
Yep.
That you can convert into a 4-blade by removing the infill and inserting a bleeder blade. So you add around 10 grains by adding the bleeder blade in, because you can't magically add blades without adding weight.
Yeah.
So the whole head and design is based around it being a 2-blade broadhead. So if it's a 125, it's a 125 as a 2-blade. When you shoot it as a 4-blade, it's 135.
Okay.
That in the real world of accuracy and things doesn't make a lot of difference out to 40 yards. And we've had the guys test this in a hooter shooter. So if you're not familiar, it's a vise that holds the bow and it's a mechanical release. So there's no human error. So it's the bow's clamp.
Yeah.
Consistency is key with that. So we've had them shoot it with it and without it. And out to 40 yards, there's around half an inch difference with it shooting with the mechanical. So
yeah,
average bow hunter in Australia is probably not pushing it too far over 40 meters. For the guys that are, we just suggest that practice with that weight and sight your bow into that weight.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you're taking those long range shots, you need to be checking everything's in sync, your arrow weights and matching everything up. Whereas for the average guy that's, out shooting a few goats and pigs on the weekend, they could run a mixed bag of heads from 100 to 125, and it's probably not going to make a lot of difference, just given that their error when they shoot. Like for myself, I can't notice the difference between 100 grain and a 125 out to around 30 meters. There's about an inch difference.
Yeah.
I'm not accurate enough to tell the difference, whether it's me or the arrow setup. So I haven't lost any critters doing anything that way.
Yeah.
And likewise, if the bow set up the 125s and I shoot a 150, I know out to 30, it's again within that 1 inch. It's a little bit lower. It might be just an inch and a half low at 30. So I know if I'm testing a 150, I have to be 30 or sub 30 to take a shot.
Yeah.
Or resight the bow. But I just choose to work it out in my head, and so far so good. I don't take too many shots these days, so. No,
but you still put down some good critters, right? So, I mean, before we dive into that, because I don't want to dive into your actual hunting, like some of your hunting stories, but let's dive down the actual route away from the business a little bit more, but more so talking about the bow hunting. So we touched on it a little bit on our call the other day, but what are some of the worst bits of advice you've ever heard in bow hunting?
I'm not too sure, because all the worst or the bad advice I've had, I've sort of it's gone in the back of the brain and I've forgotten about it, and I don't really want to think about it, because if it's no use, I sort of think it just needs to be scrumpled up like a bit of paper in the bin, piss it off. We don't need that negativity.
Yeah.
A few tips and things I've picked up along the way. Like did a hunt up Cape York years ago, and the guy at the start of his, like, if you get an arrow in a critter and it looks like a good shot, but it stops and presents you with a chance to put another arrow in it, always put the second arrow in it. And his thought process on that was, dead is good, dead is better. And that's one that's always stuck with me as a tip. If you ever get that chance to have the second shot, or if you're not quite sure, don't jump into things. Don't rush an animal after a shot.
Yeah. Have you ever rushed an animal? Like, have you ever got up to one on the ground and it's hopped back up on you?
I got a little video. It wasn't actually my animal. It was, again, Rowan Walker come down, hunted fallow deer with me a couple of years ago. And it was his first ever fallow. We'd had a pretty exciting morning. And we ended up rattling at one particular buck, and he didn't come in. And we're just about to pack up and leave the stand. I noticed a bit of movement off to my side and seen this other buck come charging in. And I sort of, well, stop, get ready. He's coming in. He's going to be on that scrape. It's like 15 yards. This is a done deal. The man can shoot like a demon.
Yeah.
We're on here. So this thing's come in. It's come running up. Textbook, run behind a small bank of trees at about 40 yards. Give him a chance to draw back. Shot this thing. Absolutely pinwheeled it. Blood everywhere. We followed the red carpet down to where this thing was lied, looked at it for a couple of minutes before sort of rushing in. Its chest wasn't moving. Looked stone cold dead. Went down to have a look at the antlers, and as I put my hand on its antlers, it's got up to run. So I've got two fingers hooked around the hook of its antlers, and me and this deer had a bit of a tussle for probably 30 seconds. Yeah, I managed to grab it and, get it and drag it to the ground, and stone cold dead.
Far out.
It just had a tiny bit of adrenaline in it.
Yeah.
And it's funny. The boys have got, my brother was actually filming as we walked down to it. And he's got that little bit. And then sort of as it all went, the camera's just gone out the window. And we've all sort of gone to try and grab this thing because he's on the edge of a pretty steep drop. So we didn't want him to drop in there. Otherwise, you risk busting an antler or, losing points as they fall down.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And it's a nightmare to drag them back up the top of the hill.
Yeah.
Because photos at the very bottom of a shady, damp gully look shit compared to one on a nice green, flat with the sun and everything like that in the perfect angle. So
yeah,
we did that, and that was just me checking and thinking that it was dead, but not giving it. I had to give it a little bit more. Maybe we had to sat down and sort of just reflected a bit. Like, I sort of sit down now when I shoot something. If I see it fall over, I still sort of sit there for 5 or 10 minutes and just soak up what happened and how it all went down.
Yeah.
Unless the shot's off or something like that, and you've hit it, and it might have clipped spine or something like that. It's dropped and reacted to the shot, and you need to rush in and put that second shot in. Then for those ones there, it's arrow on the string, straight, direct, walk to them. If you can, come in from behind them so they're not looking at you, even better, and get a second arrow in straight away. But dead is good, dead is better. Don't rush it.
I do like that one. Yeah, definitely.
So,
anything else on that?
Oh, just having another thing that I've worked, and some people don't like it, other people do. I'm a fan of hunting with someone else, just because you get that second person's perspective of the shot. Like, I've been the shooter and had the shot, and the person watching it has gone, "Oh, that looked a bit iffy from where I was," sort of thing. And you go, "Oh, you were on that angle." If it's a bit winky, it's always good to have that second person because they can sort of be that clarity for you, and it might be the difference between finding a critter or not finding it. You might think you've absolutely pinwheeled and smoked this thing, and go to rush over the rise only to spook it, give it a gutful of adrenaline, and it runs 2 or 3 Ks. And in some country, when they start running, they're going downhill. You're never going to find them, or they just disappear because they run down. And if they've got a hole sort of high in their body and they're running down the hill, well, all that blood congeals in the front of their chest. So even though they're still bleeding out, they're not actually losing blood externally.
Yeah.
So you can't follow them. Whereas when they're running up a hill, it's splashing back in the back cavity of their chest. So, the different angles, different shots. Little bits and pieces that sort of you don't think too much about, whereas the second person's opinion. And I've had stuff where I probably would have rushed it afterwards. Like, I shot a buck last rut, and the shot was good. Like, I shot from 4 yards, I think. I was in a bush rattling a deer for Spinksy. The deer that we rattled in wasn't the one that come in. It was one that we'd walked past and thought, he's never going to come in. Let's not waste our time. Let's go down. This guy's off his head.
Yeah.
He's angry. He's aggro. That other guy's just standing there sort of observing from the sidelines. I'm there, and sort of we're looking back and forth at each other. And he goes, "Give me the signal, like, to draw me bow." So, yeah, righto. So didn't even have an arrow on the string. So I've got an arrow, put it all on, got ready, and he's going, point, and I'm like, I can't see shit. It's up a hill. Like I'm wedged in a bush. I'm rattling antlers. Got this, and then all of a sudden I just see a set of antlers at 6 meters. So I've ripped this bow back, and he's on top of me, croaking, doing his thing, throwing his antlers around, and I didn't even have to pick a pin because 20, 30, and 40 meter pins were all sitting on his chest. So I'll let this arrow go. It's cracked his front leg bone. Found the arrow. There's good blood and stuff like that. We didn't see him fall down. We didn't hear him fall down. And so to give it 5 minutes, it was getting real close to dark. And instead of pushing, Jack goes, let's come back in the morning.
Yeah.
Yeah, righto. Did that, come back, found him 10 metres from where we were in the morning, stone cold dead.
Yeah.
So if he hadn't have been there, I probably would have pushed.
Mm.
And I would have spooked him and pushed him, and he could have gone up and over into the next gully. He could have,
You just don't know, right? Yeah.
That second person, he goes, from where I was, it looked like it might have deflected off his shoulder a little bit.
Yeah, okay.
You may not have hit all the vitals you think you did. And yeah, it turns out that I didn't hit all the vitals I thought I did.
Yeah.
I hit that bone and it sort of deflected along, but it was enough to cut through one lung and out through his liver.
Yeah.
And it obviously had him down in,
short enough time.
Not instantaneously. We didn't see him fall over, but yeah, he only managed to make 10 metres from where we shot him. So
yeah. I also find that just being with other hunters makes you a better hunter, right? Like they see different things or tell you different things as to their outlook on it all, not just the shot, but everything. So it's like, oh yeah, I see what you're saying there. Maybe this could work as well. You can kind of like just bounce off of each other a little bit more.
100%. I was only talking today. I'm going away in a couple of weeks for a hunt, and I was on the phone to my mate Corey and said, I'm going to go have a look at this new place, but I'm going to go and get Tommy to come for a walk with me because I've walked it once. I want to get his idea on how he'd approach it and see if I'm missing something.
Yeah.
Even though it's in sort of my stomping ground and it's where I do a fair bit of hunting and it's only a property next door to where I normally go.
Yeah.
Just getting someone else's sort of twist on it and their take on it could be the difference between me deciding to walk in at this particular level and him going, we'll go, 200 metres higher, could be the difference between walking and seeing the arse end of the pig or walking and having a pig walk onto you, which is always a better scenario. Like if you can set an ambush and be still when an animal comes to you.
Yeah.
It's always a lot easier than you trying to push the gap and close into them while they're in their spot and still, because they know the location, they know what they just seen, they know that bird's chirping, they know that tree's there, and they know that shadow's there. That green thing there, it wasn't there when I looked a couple of minutes ago.
Yeah.
They put their head back down, they
feed,
they look again. Yeah, that's it. For a pig, it's when their tail stops flicking and their ears pick up.
Yeah.
That's a telltale sign. You've got seconds to either get it done if you're in a position to have the shot.
Yeah.
Or pretty much just pack up and walk away because they're about to run. They're about to bust you.
The grunt's about to happen. Let's go, guys. Scram.
That's it. The get the hell out of Dodge is about to start.
Yeah.
So, little things like that. The swinging tail of a pig when its head's down feeding, even if it's in the open paddock, if their head's down, their ass is up and that tail's flicking, I'm all but jogging into them.
Yeah.
And I think probably a thing that I've learned, might not be a tip or a technique as much, but sometimes you have to stalk fast. Sometimes you have to actually make things happen. You can't you can't approach every hunt like it's a sambar deer hunt where you have to, take half a step, clear the leaf litter in front of where your next step's going to be, and then put that foot there and slowly creep on it. Sometimes you have to head down, ass up, and just make some ground.
Move. Yeah.
Like my first chittle I shot with Brad Smith, it sort of reinforced that for me. We all but sprinted to get in front of these deer.
Yeah.
We'd seen them, every day walking this same line, same gully. And this particular day we seen it, and he just goes, the wind's right. He goes, let's go. And I'm sort of like, yeah, righto. And he just started running.
All right.
And I'm like, righto, I'll run. So we're running and we get down, we drop into this little bit of a gully and we get onto a pad, like a cattle pad. So it's all soft stuff. So we're running on clouds because it's not making a noise.
Yeah.
Whatever dust we're producing, staying in this little gully. We're not getting affected by the wind because we're down lower than the surface wind.
Yeah.
We got in that. We made 300 meters like a sprint, essentially.
Yeah.
Hopped up along the way, had a look. Yeah, righto, they're still going that way. Head down, bum up. We made another couple of 100 meters and literally got to where we we're going to shoot from, regained the breath, drew back, and 27 yards. Should have walk out broadside.
Far out.
From, I spent 4 days prior, shoes off, socks off, painful stalking through this stuff, not cracking a single leaf, trying to get, again, they were bedded and they were comfortable and they knew the scenery, the location. Yeah. It was theirs. They had the upper hand. Whereas when they're moving, I think one of my favourite times or one of my favourite methods of hunting critters is, righto, they're going from A to B. I need to intercept them somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
You can find that way of doing it. It's a real deadly way of hunting.
That was a real aha moment for me when I figured that out, because for so long it was me just chasing them. It was me trying to close the ground between me and them. And then I realized after watching so many different hunting videos, like the animals are walking to where these people are. I'm like, they're freaking intercepting wherever they're going. Like, and you can't always judge that. Sometimes you'll put yourself in a place and they'll come towards you, then they'll do a loop and go back from where they came. But you don't always know. So just putting yourself in position and hoping, or like you said, patterning them as to what they're doing day in, day out, and then doing it is going to be working well.
Yeah, like another thing I've picked up, or another thing I've learned, knowing your property, knowing where you hunt.
Yeah.
If you've got 10 places you hunt and you only know 10% of those 10 places you hunt, when you see that critter walking or it disappears or it drops out of sight, if you don't know the place well, you don't know where, a good gully is for them to camp up in, where the water is, where there's better feed.
Yeah.
You've essentially lost that critter. Whereas if you're hunting somewhere that hey, them deer, they're going to go over that ridge, down that gully. If I cut up this gully, those two gullies intersect, they're not going to see me. They're not going to win me. They can't hear me.
Yeah.
I could do cartwheels up that gully. As long as I can get there before them, if the wind does what it does and pulls down this gully, if I can get in that right spot, they're just going to walk to me.
Yeah.
That's saved my ass
so many times.
Multiple times, like walking back in the morning and seeing a big boar out on the flat, just got caught out late feeding and he's started to trot up the hill. I'm pretty sure I know where he's going to go. He's coming around the long way across this open paddock. If I just hightail it up the hill and cut into this little gut, there's a point where it all sort of comes together and they have to cross there. Otherwise, there might be a few spots there, but the main pad goes through here. If I can get to there before him, this is a done deal. Scooted up the hill, worked my ass off for 2 or 3 minutes to get up to that point. Had a look, sure as shit. Here they come walking up because they get into that thick and then they just settle back down and they go into relax mode.
Yeah.
You're already stationary, the right side of the tree, or you're in the shadows, or obviously picking your spot where you're going to take the shot from or where you're going to try and ambush pays dividends.
Yeah.
You're standing in the middle of a paddock, pretty good chance they're going to walk and look and go, not today, and walk the other way and not even swing by you. Whereas if you're in the shadow, on the right side of the trees, the brush, whatever it is, it might be having the bush behind you so it breaks your silhouette up, not necessarily having something in front of you. And being in the position that you're not stepping out from where you're hidden to take the shot, you want to be able to draw back and take the shot from that spot.
Yeah.
So you're better to have one place that you know like the back of your hand than 10 that you only know a little bit of. Unless those 10 places are absolutely loaded with good critters, then by all means, feel free to invite me on your next hunt.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, no, it's really interesting. I mean, I feel like each time I go to the property and I learn a little bit more about it. And I really feel like this last red hunt that I went on, it's kind of like sealed the deal as to I know where a lot of the like you can see exactly, or I know exactly how it all lays into place, where they're like where they're mainly hanging out, where everything's kind of happening. I'm like, it's only a matter of time now. Like, I swear it's so close to happening, but it's been almost 2 years of doing that before I've kind of come to the realization and really understood, okay, this is the land, this is what they're doing, this is where they're going. And it's been a long process, but a really fun one as well.
Well, I think that's all part of it, like the learning. Like, it
Yeah.
took me 3 years to get my first deer on the ground.
Yeah.
And within the first, I shot the deer, got it on the deck. I think I shot another 4 deer in the next 2 months after that.
Crazy.
So it was just like cracking the code.
Yeah. Yeah.
Once I had it cracked, and once I worked out that, yes, the deer are probably the harder of the species to hunt in comparison to, pigs and goats and things like that. Big old mountain boar is a completely different story to a 1-year-old boar that's out in the paddock walking around, or a mob of sows and suckers. They're a proper old mountain boar that's been in the hills. Man, they avoid chopper shoots. They avoid the blokes running around with the dogs. They avoid the farmers' poisons.
Yeah.
They've been there and done it all. 9 times out of 10, you won't get one that doesn't have, cuts all over its ear from a dog slinging off it, or it'll have scars where it's been hit by a bullet or something like that. Someone shot over it, or put one up high in no man's land. They're crazy critter, but the deer, once you crack them and you work out, they're not that mystical beast that is impossible to hunt.
Yeah.
You just have to know what you can and can't get away with. Like, goats have really great eyesight. Their sense of smell's not too good. So you know that if the wind's a bit winky on a goat hunt, you're probably going to get away with it. Pigs, on the other hand, their eyesight's pretty poor, whereas their nose is
incredible.
Oh, ridiculous. Them things can smell a truffle, a meter underground.
Yeah.
They're going to smell you and your Lynx Africa 4 kilometers away.
Yeah.
Like, they're going to pick that every time. It doesn't matter how, unscent washed or what scent blocker you use or any of that stuff. If it smells foreign to them, they're not having a part of it. They're out of here. And then you get to deer and they're the same. Their eyesight is fantastic. Their sense of smell is fantastic. Their hearing is on point. If you crack a stick within that last sort of, 70 meters and inwards, their ears prick up. And if there's half a dozen of them, all but one is going to be focused and burning holes on you. And 9 times out of 10, that's the end of that hunt. You just, righto, they've beat me, pack it up. It's time to go and find something else. But that intercepting them, that's been my best method for shooting, multiple meat animals as well. Like getting up high early in the morning, above them, looking down, watching where they feed, and then just putting yourself in the right spot, painting the right picture, thinking, righto, if I was coming up this track or this gully, am I going to walk up that one there that's got fallen timber all over it and a shitload of stinging nettles? Am I going to walk up that one there where there's a heap of loose rocks and a heap of shit and it's steep as hell? Or am I going to walk up that pad that the cows look like they use, they're flattened out and it's, the M4 or the M7 highway coming up the gully? It doesn't take Einstein to figure out. They're probably going to take that path of least resistance. They're like us. They conserve their energy where they can. If there's an easier way to do something, they'll do it.
Yeah.
So if you can set yourself up where multiple points meet one track going into the timber, that's probably an even better spot, because it doesn't matter if they come up A, B, C, or D. You're where all of those highways meet. You're at the intersection.
Yeah.
If you can be there, they're going to come to you.
Yeah.
So
no, it makes
trail
sense.
cams.
Good. Yes, trail cams. Yeah.
So that's another. I'm a pretty massive fan, believer, utilize. I'd probably run 20 to 25 trail cams at a time.
Yeah. Wow.
So I first started doing it, and I just same thing. I brought a few good ones from the States when our dollar was good.
Yep.
I've still got those to this day. So I've got some old Bushnell cameras that are, 10 years old that still work just as good as some of the other ones out now. I've brought a few cheapies here and there trying to, build the stock range up, but they just don't seem to catch the image, or you end up with the stage where there's 3 or 4 days where you just get these white glare sunburn images, or I bit the bullet. I've stuck with the Bushnell Ranger trophy cam, trail cams, and out of I might run 16 megabyte SD cards, and probably get 2 months out of them, depending on the setting, depending on the traffic location too. Like if I'm setting up on a main gamepad, I'll turn the quality of the image down. And I'll turn the amount of images down, and I'll increase the break between the photos, because I don't need 15 photos of the same pig walking up the pad from 40 meters out all the way up to the camera. I just need to know, yes, there is a pig walking past, and it walks past every day at 7:45 a.m. So I know if I'm going to try and chase that pig, I need to be above him before 7:45. Vice versa for the deer. Whereas if I'm looking at, I'm trying to pick a deer in the rut, I put my camera on his scrape and I've got it turned to maximum megapixels for the quality of the image. I've got it taken 3 photos, 10 seconds apart, as many as I can, so I can view the deer, his antlers, see what he's doing, see his attitude, try and work out what he's doing. If that's a scrape that he's in all day, if it's a scrape that he just visits once a day when he's passing through and it's just a territorial one. If it's just a scrape that he decided to make one day when he's bored and visited it twice during the duration of it, well, I get there and I pull that camera up and I go, well, I'm not going to waste my time hanging around that one. I've got 3 photos of him in 2 weeks. I've got this other one where I've got photos of him before the sun's up, after the sun's up. In the middle of the day, he's come back and had a piss on it to mark his territory. He's come back down in the afternoon to it as well. I know straight off the bat, that's where I need to be if I want to kill that deer. I need to be in that vicinity.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really cool. And I think how close are your properties now that you've got to home?
4.5, 5 hours.
Yeah, okay. So you kind of drive out, you'll set them all up, leave them out there ongoing for a few months, come back.
Yeah, pretty much. I try and get out sort of once a month to my main block for a long weekend sort of thing. So for 3 days or something like that. I'll sometimes it's with the boys and it's just purely a hunting type weekend, and other times I'll take the missus and the dogs up and stuff like that, and I sort of break it up into cutting a bit of firewood, mucking around with her and the quad bike and the dogs and things as such, and then I'll sneak out for a hunt early in the morning, late in the afternoon, and I still get to do what I want. She still gets to do what she wants, and we all, it's a happy balance. I get to go for a hunt. I get to pick my cameras up, and we'll go for a walk just to do cameras. I'll just grab me tripod and my camera, and instead of going for a hunt, because she's not a fan of the killing part of it. The rest of it she's happy with, the stalking, all of that stuff, being in the bush, that's cool, but she doesn't like the kill part of it. So, fair enough. So we just go out and I shoot them with a camera. And we do the trail cam round. So I might have 4 or 5 trail cams that are in sort of a walk, and we'll go and pick them up and try and get some footage while I'm out there, try and get some good still photos and a bit of video of whatever's floating around. And all of that, it's just recon. So, and then I know I can use that as well to go, righto, in May, there's a shitload of boars moving around this particular area. Righto, I need to be hunting that area in May, or, as the deer change through the season, like in the rut, they're post-rut, they're pre-rut, they move up and down the range. So I might have cameras in the rut that are red hot, heaps of action all day long. As soon as the 20th of April comes around, it's a ghost town where that is, because it's not a natural place to doze, travel or walk or bed. It's where the buck's decided it's a good location to tuck the girls up. So he pushes them in there, and I get cameras that take, 5,000 photos in a 2 or 3 day window, because they're just deer non-stop. You've got a mob of girls in there. You've got the main bucks, satellite bucks, spikers, all the interactions with them. You get to see what other deer are poking around in the area. It's like having a monitor there the whole time.
Yeah, the whole time.
Without having to be there. So, for the guys that live on a property or the property's only an hour away and they're there every weekend, it may not be as crucial for them because they're getting boots on the ground time. Whereas for myself, I might get out to the local block for a walk once a week or once a fortnight. I get, chase a rabbit or stalk a deer or something like that. I get to hone the skills, but I don't get the familiarization of these better blocks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So the trail cams are working. They're doing the job for me.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So summertime, you put the trail cams over any water sources, and that almost instantly tells you what's in that area, because it doesn't matter where you are or what animal it is, everything needs to drink.
Yeah.
And it can tell you straight away if you're, like your pigs, for example, are nocturnal. So you might be out trying to chase these big boars. You're seeing fresh wallows, you're seeing tree tusks marks, all the rubs, everything's looking right. Run a trail cam on that for a week and you find that boar or multiple boars, they're on that between 11 p.m. and say 3, 4 a.m. And then nothing. You don't catch them in the day. They're out, and different properties, different hunting pressure. If you got a property where the farmer drives around once a week and throws a bit of feed out, compared to one where the farmer's around doing 3 laps a day, checking fences, checking dams and stuff like that, the critters catch on to that. And
yeah, definitely.
It's not a region like I'm fairly lucky where I hunt. I've got 3 blocks adjoining each other along a range.
Yeah.
So, and all 3 properties are completely different in the way that the farmers manage that. So one of them is a once a week checker person. One of them's a twice a daily, and the other one is a once a month person.
Yeah, well.
So the once a month person, as soon as you go 20 meters into the edge of the scrub at any time of the day, you can find critters all throughout the day. Whereas you go to the block where old mate's around twice a day, they know those times and they'll avoid, if he does his checks at say 11 and 1 p.m., so just after his cup of tea in the morning and just after he's had a feed at lunch, the critters know not to be out at those times.
Yeah.
You go there at 12 o'clock, smack bang in the middle when he's sitting at home, there's critters everywhere. It's finding, and without the trail cams, I'd never have worked that out.
Yeah, exactly. They're patterning us as much as we're trying to pattern them.
Oh, for sure. And they're there 365 days a year.
Yeah.
They know it better than we will ever know it, because their boots are on the ground day in, day out. That's their house. Like your house, you know where it is, you know where the creaky floorboard is. It's the same for them. They know where the dodgy gully is. They know where the wind's shit. They know where the wind's good. They know where they can camp, and you have to walk through 50 meters of the crunchiest leaves on the property, and they just camp up there and go, he's about 40 meters out. We'll wait till he gets to 30 and then we'll run. We'll give him a fighting chance this week.
Chance, yeah.
So, and other times, stuff will just, the weirdest of times, like I said, that good boar, we come walking back, it was like 10:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
And this guy was out and about, like he got caught with his pants down in the paddock. He should not have been there by rights.
No.
In all the years I've been there, I've never seen one at that time. They've never seen them like that. And he was just wrong place, wrong time.
We're done for it.
We thought the same thing, and then we started going, righto, let's just hang them morning hunts out a bit longer. Let's hang around that little bit extra.
Yeah.
Sure as shit, we started to find stuff later in the day. So we'd have that first sort of dawn hunt where you get a lot of the deer and the pigs moving up into the thicker stuff. And then you have like an hour or two lull between sort of 7:30, 9:30. The place just shuts up and it's completely dead. And then all of a sudden, 9:30, 10:30, things just start to pop up out of nowhere. It's as if they got halfway up the gully or halfway up the creek and just decided they were going to camp up, bed for 2 hours, and then they restart their travel plans to where they're going to go that afternoon. And all of a sudden we found that, our morning and our afternoon hunt actually became morning, a midday and an afternoon hunt. And that was all just governed off, trail cams and being out in the scrub a little bit longer and working things out.
Yeah.
It's just, time on the ground and getting familiar with the area you hunt and the game that you hunt.
Oh man, that's really insightful. No, thank you for that. And I think that's been hour 15. It's probably a good time to kind of wrap it. But what's plans for you? I mean, minus COVID right now, what are plans moving forward for the year? Is there any kind of big hunts you're aiming towards? Any big movements we should see with Kyuga?
Oh look, we've got like this Gen 2 that we've been working on for a bit. We're hoping after this sort of COVID-19 settles down a little bit and the world gets back to normal and whatnot, we can release a bit more product and the flow of product from our supplier to us to the end user sort of streamlines a bit more. Is the best way to put it.
Yeah.
We've got a couple other broadheads that are sort of ticking along in the back of the memory bank. We've got them drawn up and a few little testings done here and there, but we're just, at the moment, we're just solely focused on getting what we've got 100% right and getting our stock and everything perfect. So, we're not having to put things out of stock. And sometimes, sometimes it's crazy. You get an order and you go, sweet, this is going to last us for ages. You put it up, you do a few Instagram posts, you put it all up on the website, you fill a couple of shop orders, and before you know it, you go, there's 4 packets left on the shelf. What the hell happened? There was 100 packets there 3 days ago. How the hell did this happen? And just the numbers just all bang, bang, bang. And sometimes there's obviously the seasons and stuff like that. Coming up to the rut is a real busy time. One. And another sort of 2 months from now, July, August, everyone sort of starts to gear up going up north to Cape York and Territory, chasing pigs and buffalo and stuff like that. And they're sort of a multiple head use. So you see the welded heads, the old school heads seem to become popular for that because they're a bit cheaper and, the guys are packing 24 hours to go up the Cape.
Yeah.
Shoot pigs. They're not chasing that high end perfect quality because their shots aren't, as far as difficult.
Yeah.
Some guys like the same thing and stick with the same thing and they'll buy 24 premium heads and I'm all for it. It's great.
Yeah.
Other guys just go, we'll just run the cheaper heads for that. Like,
I forgot to ask you, this is something I did want to touch on, is traditional bows versus your compound bows. Do you need to see any difference in the broadheads you're using? Have you, like, for instance, with Spinksy, someone who's using them all the time, does he use the Gen 2s and or that side of things, or is he having to take a different approach?
So that's actually a good question. He was always so talking about Spinksy here, he was always of the idea that the Pilot Cup wasn't going to be very good as a traditional head.
Yeah.
But talking, I said, look, I'll flick you a couple down, just take them out and let me know what you think. I think he goes, I got him. 2 days later, he sent me a message and it just looked like a red carpet. And he goes, holy shit, I should have been using these years ago.
There you go.
But again, his traditional side of it might be a little bit different to some of the other guys. If you've ever met him, he's built like a freaking grizzly bear.
He's a little stocky boy, isn't he?
Yeah, his shoulders are about the same width as his height.
Yeah.
But like he's shooting that, might be 68 pound or it's some ridiculous amount of poundage. You got to pick it up and draw it back and you go, holy crap. And he just gets there and tilts his hat back a little bit and just tinkers away at it like he's,
nothing.
Breaking a matchstick sort of thing.
Yeah.
So he's probably shooting a little bit more poundage and he's very in tune with his like chronograph and arrows and playing with, he's got the string business. So he tinkers with the speeds. He's playing like he's a tinkerer to get the most performance out of his bow.
Yeah.
But then on the flip side, I had a couple of guys from New Zealand that brought some pilot cuts and they're traditional hunters and they're shooting pigs and like good sort of 80 kilo mountain boars over in New Zealand with them. And he said, we're either getting pass-throughs or they're getting held up on the fletchers on the offside. He said, they're awesome. He goes, it leaves a massive blood trail in these thick gullies we're hunting. It's perfect. So, I mean, it's all personal preference. Like the newer heads, like I was saying before, with the tip design and all of that, we've focused a lot of time and effort and energy on making sure the tip is the best it can be for optimal penetration, so you don't get glancing shots, and basically, so the loss of kinetic energy is a very minimal amount. Like we had some heads there, like I said, 30 pounds of kinetic energy. We got, I think the Zot was about 2 pounds of kinetic energy. The old schools were around 3, and the pilot cuts are around 5.
Yeah.
So in 30 down to 5 being the worst.
Yeah.
It's 6 times better.
Yeah.
So you're losing 6 times less energy on initial impact. So that's been a major thing. And yeah, that's probably why that traditional side of it has sort of worked so well, because we've focused on making it a lower kinetic energy to get the most out of the head.
Yeah. Dude, no, that's impressive. I think that's really cool. And I think definitely just this has been very insightful, and hopefully the listeners have got a lot out of it. I think, to put it nicely, people can follow you on Instagram, which is Grant_Randy_Rand, which is RAND. And also jump across to the Kyuga site as well, which is at Kyuga Broadheads, I believe. Is that correct? Yeah.
Yeah, man, That's it. So Insta and Facebook. We have got a little bit on YouTube that we're working on, but our sole focus at the moment has been getting the product correct. Yeah. Once the product's correct, then we're going to start, sprucing up the media and adding some content and stuff like that.
Awesome.
There's a fair bit sitting there. It's just, we want to get the product right before we proceed with anything else. So
work on part B next.
Yeah.
That's right. Order by order, right?
Well, look, we're Kyuga Broadheads. We're not Kyuga Productions. We're not Kyuga Media. Our business is Broadheads. That's what we do. That's what we do well. So we're that's our main focus. But thanks for having me, man. It's been good.
Randy's been awesome, dude. It's been a good chat.
Hopefully someone's learnt something from this and picked something up, and
I'm sure they will have. Yeah.
Can only hope, man.
Yeah. No, I do appreciate it. It's a good chat. Thanks heaps.
Oh, no worries, man. Thanks heaps.